Hello, welcome to the Zero Ends channel. Please like and subscribe. Please enjoy our live.
Zero ends. Welcome, guys, to another edition, another stream, another podcast, another deeper look in regards to the thumbnail and the title at hand. Welcome to Zero Ends channel. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. And like always, the rules are on these live streams. 3-1 participate in the chat room. A subscription goes a long way. If you have any questions or any response to today's stream, as you see the thumbnail, the title, Amanda Seales Destroys Black Conservatism, Part 2. And the reason why I say she might have did her thing in regards to these people that are in a circle and label themselves Black conservative is they're trying to, I guess, have the conversation about this thing about racism and black on black violence, black violence of some sort. But anywho, let's begin. Let's continue on to this. I think there's like an hour left into this. I covered a good portion of it last time. Check out that video. But now let's continue on and wrap this up. One thing, a side note to people that should not know or did not know, one of the gentlemen that was on this podcast got fired from his job. And the word on the street is, I think it might be the man that had the Israel necklace on. He lost his job. Go figure. I should not be surprised because remember, for those that participate in the platform we call Jubilee, it's run by, I think, a Middle Eastern man. And you volunteered to come on this podcast to express your thoughts and opinions about subject matters. And I take it in regards to the conversation about racism and all that stuff and about, brownie points, he lost his job, for lack of better words. So, but enough of that. Let us continue on with this video. enjoy, fair use, and let's get it.
First, I want to kind of get rid of this like right left ordeal.
Mm-hmm.
I really want to talk about just like our own personal views and what we've experienced, what we've seen.
Mm-hmm.
And to your claim about black on black crime, I really do believe, and I think a lot of people here do believe, especially based off of
one question. What you listened to, because if you didn't catch the last broadcast, now she's discussing about the issue about black and black violence, and it really is the problem or in black society or just American society, or is a byproduct of white supremacy, from what I can recall. So let's listen in.
experiences and everything, that it is just lack of accountability. In the black community, we need to start taking responsibility for our actions and stop pointing our fingers at other people and the white man. Because to be honest,
why can't both happen at the same time? Both are causes.
Because you gotta clean your own house before
Both
you
are
go
Why?
complain. Because if
you're dirtying my house, if you keep pouring
not,
shit into my house and I'm cleaning it, why can't I do both? Why can't I clean my house and bar the windows from you shitting on my house?
Because it begins with responsibility within us. If we're like, okay, oh, the white person's doing this to me, the white person's not, we're not going to ever come to the core of the issue.
They are.
We need to take responsibility.
And it's not even just the white person, because now we have seen very many races, people of very many backgrounds that are actively participating in the effort to keep a working class down. Like that is absolutely a fact. It's not just white people. So I don't attend to that. But I will say the reality of there being systems in place is real. Over-policing is a real thing. You know what's also been really real is the effort of violence interruption in certain communities, right? So we've seen this in Detroit, we've seen this in New York, we've seen this in Baltimore, where there are communities that have said, what we're gonna do is we're gonna be like a neighborhood watch for our community, so that before the popo even come, before 12 even rolls up in here, we're gonna actually put ourselves in between the conflict and calm it down. And that has been incredibly effective. But you know what? It's not funded. It's not funded. And you would think that like city councils and mayors and governors would say, shit, you know what? This is going to save us so much money. Because why? Taxpayers keep having to pay for the fault of these police officers. And even though we say, well, only certain people, only a certain number of people have died, that doesn't dispel the fact that a large amount.
As y'all know, they got a little fact check here, and I'm not going to squint my eyes to look what on that is, but it looks like it's saying, according to the Department of Commerce, debates made that neighborhoods watch blah 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 and backgrounds. Yeah, I'm not gonna read it. Let's keep going. Sorry about that, guys.
More Black people are imprisoned than any other group in this nation, and that is not by accident.
Again, I started with accountability, and it just seemed like the
But I disagree with you.
No,
I mean, I don't
because,
disagree with you.
Because here's the thing: look at our media. Look at rap. Look at what we're glorifying.
Right.
We're glorifying violence.
Who's we? Who's we? Who's
the black community?
Who controls the
black community?
Who controls the distribution of these sources of media?
And who takes it in?
Who controls
the devil?
Who takes it in?
Listen, if you're okay.
And there are certain types of devils that run that. I think people from the state of Israel. I think. Let's keep going.
So let me put it in this context. If I have a company, right, and you guys are my employees, and I determine what you get to eat every day, that's also going to determine how you exist in this company, right? Like if you come to work and I say the only thing you can eat is processed foods and fried foods, and you're not going to get to have the best vegetables, etc. What's that going to affect? Your health. That's going to affect your ability to operate, etc. This is how the United States operates. There's a lot of us that don't want to admit that as much as accountable as we want to be, all of our brains also don't operate the same way. Some of us are much more apt to be indoctrinated than others. That's a fact. There is a 1% of people that knows this. There's a whole show called Mad Men that's about advertising, etc. And if we don't acknowledge multiple things at the same time, then we simply cannot stop it. We can be as accountable as we want to be. And I hope that if you're right, because I hope you're right, I wish that it was a situation where if Black people could just be accountable, then nothing else would matter. But unfortunately, that hasn't been the case, because we have seen when we have Black Wall Street in Tulsa and we have Black Wall Street in Durham, that when we actually do hold our own and build our own communities, they will still come and run it down.
Boss, you've been voted out. Please return to your seat.
And the reason why you been voted out, my dude, you didn't bring nothing to the table. Where are the talking points? Where are the pushbacks? What she said about, you know, the redlining, how they tear down things, etc., etc., etc. You gotta bring some to the debate to really fight against Amanda Seales. And she is labeled a radical. Now, a lot of y'all want to use the word she's liberal and all this stupid shit. She didn't claim she was liberal. She says she's a radical type of woman. And in verse, she looks at society and systems as a whole. And said, and she's right. Why you can't talk about both? Because you gotta talk about the main source, what causes and still keeps it perpetual, how can I say it? In perpetual servitude to these people systematically. Why you can't get from upward mobility. And really truly, Black people always in this country had to make it out the mud and had to get out how to get, because there's no salvation for Black people in regards to systems or anything of money, monetary, anything to save them when things happen, or anything in regards that will affect within the community that don't have very or little resource. So let that sink in. Next person.
Oh my God.
Joshua.
Hello, Joshua.
Yeah. So I have two claims I want to settle. So I'm originally from New Orleans, right? And I've seen black on black crime my whole life, right?
Yes.
I don't believe it have nothing to deal with the police. It's more with the community, because there's a lot of pride that's in that city, where to the point where this person can't tell me nothing, I'm gonna kill him, I'm gonna take him out.
Yeah.
It's that simple in New Orleans.
Yeah.
Now in Cali it's probably the same way, but I feel like every state is different. You probably the way how your belief is might be right? But in New Orleans it's a little different. Also, my second claim is this: we proclaim so much about Black Lives Matter, but when it comes down to a white person killing a black person, it's a big deal. It just don't make no sense to me.
Do you know what the statement Black Lives Matter is actually stating?
Yeah, well, like, just started off from George Floyd.
Start off from Mike Brown.
Mike Brown, okay.
So Black Lives Matter is really simply just stating that when Black people are murdered by the police, that our lives should matter, and that oftentimes it is not considered. It is oftentimes presented as we deserved it, or we must have done something to cause it, and that our lives are disposable. We also don't ever see true justice on the same level as others when the police incur violence against Black people. So Black Lives Matter is a statement asserting that our lives are worth justice, our lives are worth preservation, and we have seen in innumerable instances a level of restraint operated between the police and people of other races that they do not seem to carry with Black people. So that's what Black Lives Matter means. It doesn't mean that anyone else's life doesn't matter. It means that ours matter just as much as their lives.
That's good that you cleared it out for people. Yeah, that's good.
I appreciate you. Now, as it comes to New Orleans, tell me this. Well, first of all, it was, I think it's the senator of Louisiana who literally made a campaign ad, Kennedy it was, that said, do you want Louisiana to be run by crackheads? Like he said that, like straight
they
up.
They have a bunch of them there. Yeah. They
So
do.
here's my question about New Orleans. Would you say that New Orleans gets, that particular areas of New Orleans, for instance, like the Ninth Ward?
The Ninth Ward's crazy, but I'm just saying they crazy.
Would you say that funding and attention is dispersed equally across New Orleans in terms of resources? Because I know that from living through Katrina, that is absolutely not the case.
I agree with you in that case. Everybody's not equal when it comes down to resources. For sure, I agree with you.
Here's the thing I want to just impart is that I think that we have a very distorted version of what resiliency and what restorative practice is, because we live in a time where we're seeing so many things happen so fast. So like we've seen technology like advance so fast, right? Like we have seen just our lives shift so fast that I think that we forget that as humans, our ability to recalibrate, to heal from trauma is simply not the same as the things that we are watching in technology. And so we cannot just casually think that people just get over things. Katrina, people in New Orleans are still reeling from
Yeah,
Katrina.
they are. That's true. That's true.
You know what I
That
mean?
is true.
So
yeah,
when we talk
that is
about the amount of crime and violence that is still living and happening explicitly in Katrina, we have to also talk about the amount of trauma, the amount of drug use, the amount of policing, the amount of all of these things that physically harm people across the world, not just in the United States, across the world, in communities that are not being served, and how those communities never get the chance to, quote unquote, pull themselves up by the bootstraps.
Yeah, I agree. I personally agree. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I agree. Yeah,
that
for
was
sure.
fun.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Thanks, Josh.
No problem.
My next claim is systemic racism isn't a theory. It's our lived reality backed by data and history.
Hello?
Hello, John.
John Samuel.
Hello, John Samuel. First name. All right.
Blame my parents.
Hi, parents.
I want to listen to you first. Why do you feel that? Why do you feel that way? Why do you
John went to debate training before he came here. Okay. Ultimately, I feel that way because it's simply just facts. It's in the books, and that's why there have been laws to challenge it. There have been innumerable instances where actual systems were created specifically for the impediment of Black people to advance. We have also seen innumerable instances where there were things created for Black people to advance, and they were taken back under the auspices of, we don't want them to advance. Ultimately, systemic racism exists in our institutions on a government level, in our institutions, whether it's prisons or schools, and it is undeniable because they are actively trying to reinstate it right now.
Can you give me an example of one of those systems that you believe perpetuates that cycle of racism? Redlining? Okay.
Yes.
And how does that, can you elaborate? Like, how is that affecting the Black community?
Do you know what redlining is?
I know a little bit. I'm not an expert.
Redlining was a system that was created to determine property values, and that said Black people can only live in certain neighborhoods and not in other neighborhoods. And the redlining lowered the property values of those Black neighborhoods by stating that they were more savage, that they were more dangerous, etc. Thus, they were not able to own property that was on a level of par to their white counterparts. There were also many efforts at just simply not allowing Black people to get loans for property, putting them in predatory scenarios where they were being essentially unable to own land. And that inability to own land, but still having to pay out a mortgage, if you will, or a rent, continue to put people in a conundrum of not being able to excel at the same economic rate as their white counterparts.
What I'm hearing from you, if I'm hearing correctly, is it feels like in the United States that for a while we've kind of established these systems at their foundation, and they've continued on, and they've continually just oppressed Black people, and we haven't dismantled them, and we haven't done much so they continue to complete the cycle. Is that what I'm hearing correctly?
Well, in many of these systems, they have been dismantled maybe in name, but because this country has never dismantled the culture of racism, they end up still living in practice. So we see that, for instance, in the way that the appraisal system works. Now, we saw there was an entire documentary on how appraisals have been also very racist, home appraisals, right? So your ability to sell your house for the value that it deserves.
Right.
There were a number of homes, particularly in Marin County, California, where Black people had one appraisal when they had their Blackness up. So they had their dashikis hanging, and they had their, they had their Black Good Times poster. But then when they removed all of those items and put up white people and a dog in the house, and then had their white friends come and pose as the owners of the home, the appraisal was significantly higher. And we have seen that in a number of instances. Now, of course, that is just Marin County, but there are a number of other scenarios where this has been relayed. And that's why there were certain efforts by the Democratic Party to state, okay, well, we're going to try and step in for this.
I actually remember that case, and I watched it with the family, and I thought that was just really just terrible. But the problem I guess I have with systemic racism is, I guess for somebody like me, where my family comes from, the Deep South, you probably don't even know it, Aliceville, Alabama. Okay. That's where my grandparents are from. And my grandpa came, if you saw the house that he grew up in, I'm not trying to be funny, it looked like a slave house. It was just, they grew up in poverty. And the fact that he was able to go from that and get the highest rank enlisted in the United States Navy amidst, all these, systems, so to speak, and he was able to buy his own house out in San Diego. He was able to, pass on these things to his son, my dad, and his grandchildren. Now I'm able to get an education. I was able to get my undergrad, my master's, that, the great-great-grandson of enslaved peoples can now say that, educated and can even run for Congress. I don't see how these systems are still in place as they were before.
All right, thank y'all for your patience. I had to handle something. My biggest concern with all this conversation about predatory lending and redlining, I'm not sure why people did never, especially if you're a black conservative, wherever you're trying to conserve, and that's another story. Why you never catch on about that? About predatory lending. If I look up predatory lending, because we should probably look at this. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. Okay, let's look this up. Redlining is discriminatory practice where banks and financial institutions systematically deny services such as mortgage loans, insurance to residents in certain neighborhoods based on largely on their racial and ethnic composition, rather than individual credit worthiness or financial qualification. Let's pause right there. The people that don't know about the redlining aspects, to a lot of black men that don't know this, because most of them are debating man seals. Did you know if there are a certain percentage of black people in a neighborhood which is predominantly non-black, do you know most of those people start to move out? If they said that it reaches to, what is the average? 2%, maybe close to 3%, they start to pack up and start to go. And the reason why they do this is because one, the main reason they don't want to be around you, let's be honest. But the other thing is to overflate your property. By these who that are non-black that live in those areas that's predominantly them, they don't experience the fluctuation of the housing market, roughly, right? If they qualify or not. But you as black man that qualify, especially, you do affect the markets for those people that don't know. Let that sink in. Just let that sink in. Now, let's keep going. This practice often targets blacks or minority neighborhoods, making them a hazardous on maps for investments, typically with a red line, and results in this community being excluded from access to home ownership opportunities, business loans, and even essential service. Predatory lending refers to unfair, deceptive, or fraudulent lending practice where lenders impose abuse loans terms on borrowers. This can include extreme high interest rates, excessive fees, balloon payments, or lending to people who clearly cannot afford to repay. It often targets vulnerable groups, including minorities and elderly, or those with low income or poor credits, and can trap them in cycles of debt in result of foreclosure and financial ruins. Very disturbing. And remember, both practice contribute long-term economic and social disadvantage and affects communities and has been linked to persistence, wealth, opportunity gaps in the United States. Oh, interesting. Yeah. do affect the markets, for those of you that don't know. Let that sink in. Just let that sink in. Now, let's keep going. This practice often targets blacks or minority neighborhoods, making them a hazardous on maps for investments, typically with a red line, and results in this community being excluded from access to home ownership opportunities, business loans, and even essential service. Predatory lending refers to unfair, deceptive, or fraudulent lending practice where lenders impose abuse loans terms on borrowers. This can include extreme high interest rates, excessive fees, balloon payments, or lending to people who clearly cannot afford to repay. It often targets vulnerable groups, including minorities and elderlies, or those with low income or poor credits, and can trap them in cycles of debt in result of foreclosure and financial.
Hello, welcome to the Zero Ends channel. Please like and subscribe. Please enjoy our live.
Damn. 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 Okay. Okay. No, I'm not. Too much money.
Ay, se me quiere. Oye, nada, ahora ya está. Oh, ya. porque la tengas pequeña. Estás soltero porque aún no me has hablado.
Okay, we're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. We're back. Good. Good. Okay, we're back. All right, let me finish reading. I'm gonna finish playing this. They ain't gonna slow down the stream. Don't worry about it, guys. I was gonna stop us, and I ain't gonna do all that. That's waste time. What else reading? I'm gonna finish read this predatory lending. Predatory lending refers to unfair deception or fraudulent lending practice where lenders impose abusive loans, terms, borrowing that can exclude extreme high interest rate, excessive fees, balloon payments, and clearly can afford the repayment. It often targets vulnerable groups, including minorities and elderly, or those with low income and poor credits, and can trap them cycle of debt, resulting in foreclosure, etc. And that's pretty much it. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna pull it back up and show the avatar for now, because it make no sense they did that, but it is what it is. Let's continue.
Because before, I would say you do have a little bit of a foothold. You do have some validity there. But I just think these days, when we call it systemic racism, really what we're calling it is those people who may still be in those institutions, those individual people who may actually be racist and hold some racist ideals, who are continuing to perpetuate this. I believe it's those people. So in all reality, the problem is not the systemic racism. The problem is us. The problem starts with those people who are perpetuating these, racist ideals. And so I feel like just to attack these systems is just, it's nonsensical.
Who's running the systems?
Like which system? You're talking about
whether
Congress,
it's the prison
government?
whether it's the prison industrial complex. We're seeing this now with immigration and ICE. We're seeing this also with the.
Amanda, he doesn't really know who runs systems personally. He does not know. He does not know, unfortunately. He does not know. And I think most of them don't care if they really want to know personally. Let's continue.
The effort at not making schools available for equal level of schooling available with the voucher systems that are now allowing tax dollars to allow people to go to segregated schools.
Right.
Who is controlling those systems? So for instance, in Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So in Tennessee, you have a Senate and a House of Representatives that is largely controlled by white Republicans and that have actively said, we are not going to consider what the people want in our constituencies. We are going to simply just do what we want to do, to the point where they have removed.
So it's only in those states that have largely white legislators or largely white people are controlling these systems. I'm not trying to put
All right,
words in your
guys,
mouth.
I'm so sorry. You have been voted out. Please return to your seat.
Thank you.
And the only reason you've been voted out is because, like most conservatives, you're not bringing anything tangible to the table. You just don't. Oh, guys, make sure you guys subscribe to the channel. As you know, this channel is not really monetized at this time. I'm not sure if I'm going to, maybe, who knows, right now. But the focus is we try to deal with the subject and the content ahead. And for those that want to participate in the chat room, please subscribe to the channel and say something in the chat room. And hey, I might just drop a link for those who want to come on and really let's have this conversation about Black conservatism and really what Amanda Seal has done so far. So I'm gonna let you see the next opponent and then we're gonna lower it down.
Oh, Lord.
So to go back to your claim, you basically
next
said something
person
about
is
Tennessee
Isaac.
and how they said what exactly. You said they are not in favor of what their people said, or
Yeah, Tennessee has actively said, we're not really listening to our constituency. We're not even going to allow them in the gallery when we're voting on certain issues. So for instance, like when it comes to like guns in the classroom. Like
Right.
the constituency very largely said, we do not want guns in the classroom. And they were like, well, we don't care. We're going to do it anyway. We've also seen them actively silence members of the House of Representatives who are Black and not silence someone who is doing the exact same action who is a white woman, Gloria. Shout out to the Justins.
You are right, actually, on this aspect. I did actually remember a time where 2 Black Democrats, I believe, were actually not allowed to speak. And that was interesting. And I found that really insane, considering they're representatives of the state.
Yeah.
So no, I totally can get where you're coming from, but I don't think that's a institutionalized problem where it's a law per se. I think it's more so a personal vendetta in a way.
What's the difference if you are a lawmaker and you're exacting your personal ability, your personal choice through impediment of law change?
So if we're going to go based on systemic racism, it has to be institutionalized, which means it has to be written into law, made public. When it comes to that aspect, that's not necessarily made public by law. That's made public by choice and actual discrimination by person.
So I can give you an example in Tennessee.
Okay.
Before she give an example in Tennessee, hold on. I'll make her point before I say something.
So for instance, in Tennessee, we can say that they put into law that now tax dollars, the public's tax dollars will be supporting voucher systems. The voucher systems for the schools allow parents to choose whatever school they want their child to go to using taxpayer money. And these schools can be private schools, and private schools are not in any way limited from creating systems of segregation. This is actually how segregated schools was carried out previous to Brown versus Board of Education. So this is a systemic example. We also can acknowledge that systemic examples come from not always it being written into law. And I think that is a real straw man argument for the way that a lot of colorblind racism is carried out in the United States. And what happens when we do that is we ignore the fact that most of the people making the laws are not going to put their racism on the books.
Oh, that's true. Obviously not going to put on the books. But when it comes to the Civil Rights Acts of 1964, then you also want to talk about the one in 1968. They did actually give more fair housing equality.
That was the goal.
Yeah, that's true.
But you see, that's the thing. It's like if so that's the difficult part of not changing a culture. You can change the law all day, but as Martin Luther King Jr., as the Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. talks about in his final book, he says, I feel like I integrated my people into a burning house.
That's some old talking points that still hold hearts to a lot of Black folks today. A lot of Black folks can never conceptualize the deep essence of why that is. Most people don't think that they're in a burning house, to be honest with y'all. Some people think that we're just living. Some people think and even go as far as believe that there is no such thing as racism. So when you give them the burning house analogy, they have no idea what that really means. Like literally, they have no idea. You're better off just getting cooked, and then if the after effects and you survive the cook, that's another thing coming. Anyhow, let's keep going.
Because he understood America to be a place of morality.
Well, when it came back to even back in the 1960s, like Lyndon B. Johnson actually proposed many systems in place
But
he actually
after that, people still got lynched.
Well, I can't really say that's a systemic problem. That's definitely a personal heart problem. Those are more people's individual choices against someone else. But when it came down to,
the system that's in place does not incarcerate those people or create any repercussions for those actions, then it is systemic.
Well,
because when you don't allow for there to be repercussions for harmful behaviors of people, you are literally saying our system is okay with this. So that's what Black Lives Matter is about, right? Saying like, okay, if police are going to act in this way, well, there should at least be fair repercussions across all people that they're doing this to, and they're not carrying out those repercussions for Black people. Why? And so the system is supporting this personal point of view that you're talking about.
You notice that they're ready to boot him off that table because a lot of Black conservatives, they want to be up there and say, I want dibs. I want to get at Mansfield. I'm next. Me. It's some weirdo stuff just to get your name across. It's maddening. It's sick. Let's continue.
And that's what makes it also systemic, along with the fact that we know for a fact that the number of Black people incarcerated is greater per capita than white people. We know that Black people are having longer sentences for the same crimes than white people. This not me making that up. Like, that is actual data.
All right,
so
pause.
systemic is real.
Pause. You've been voted out by the majority. Please return to your
Thank
seat.
you.
Thank you.
Yeah, these people are crazy, man. I gotta show y'all this. Hold on. Where is this? Look at this, guys.
All right. How you doing, Amanda? I'm Ryan.
Ryan. Nice
to meet you. Thanks for being here. All right. Well, what I would say is, as far as systematic racism,
Make sure you hold
I think most of us would agree that at the very least it has occurred in this country.
Okay.
Right. You know, we've had slavery, we've had Jim Crow segregation, all these different things.
Yeah.
I think my argument would be that right now, in modern America, I don't think, at the very least, it's not as prevalent as it has been to where it could stop us from being successful. Okay. I would say that it's not a thing anymore where it needs to be talked about so much and so much attention focused on it. I don't think that currently there is systematic racism in a way that it's going to be harmful to us, you know, like I said, to stop us. If anything, really, I think institutions such as things with DEI.
What do you think DEI is?
Basically, I think that it's in a way it's racism against other races outside of Blacks. And so
Where did you get that concept of it from?
I've researched a lot of things. I looked at.
Oh, really? Is that what you said? Is that your last answer? Let's look up DEI. Since that is what your claim, let's do a quick lookup. What is DEI, and was it intention for Blacks people? Let's look this up. And a lot of search engines came up. And as you know, DEI stands for Diversity, Equity, Inclusion Act, which is an organization of social frameworks aimed at ensuring fair treatment, representation, and participation for all people, especially those who have historical facings, discrimination, or exclusions, including on the basis of race, gender, sexual orientation, other identities, etc., etc. And as I'm doing this, let me share this. Hold on, let me, for those that want to see, so you don't see that. And matter of fact, I'll do some better. Yeah, that's better. Where is it? Where am I? Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I apologize. DEI efforts in the United States have rooted in civil rights movements in the 60s, which was heavily focused on addressing racial injustice impacting Black American early initiatives and legal changes targeting exclusion and discrimination against Black people and other minorities, pushing for integration of schools, workplace, and communities. Over time, DEI expands beyond the singular focus on Black Americans to include other marginalized groups such as women, people with disabilities, LGBTQ, individuals, and others, those of that access to opportunity and fair treatment and had also been historically limited. Today, DEI is broadly intended to counteract systematic inequalities for multiple groups. The intention of motivating originate with addressing explicitly racial exclusions, including but not limited to Black people. In summary, DEI began as a response to racial disparities, especially those experiencing by Black Americans, but now encompass many forms of diversity and disadvantage. And let me do this right here because let me what else down here? Wait, hold on. 1 second, guys. We're back. Let me see if I could continue on with this. Let me pull it up.
Clips from both sides of the argument, things like that. But
Okay.
basically, my point is, I think that as far as systematic racism, I think that there's evidence from the other side in that there's different things that are pushing Black people up in ways that are not fair,
Why is
and
it
different
not fair?
things like that. Because I think that we should be merit-based. I think that should always be merit-based, and where we're in, when there's jobs and different things like that, race should not be something that's considered. And so, I think that, let's say that there are ways right now where systematic racism is still alive. Again, it's not holding us back to a point where we can still be successful. We've seen so many examples, today in modern times where Black Americans can, there's no opportunities that I have that a white person or that a white person has that I don't have. I believe that all
Are you
opportunities.
sure about that? Can you actually say that?
I would say that I have every opportunity in this country to be successful, to do what I want to do, and to stand on business that every other race has. Absolutely. And
Do you have the
again,
same support?
Even if I don't have the same support, I can do what I got to do.
Do you have the same support?
I probably have more. I
Do
can
you have the
more
same
support than
community
others.
support?
I have excellent community support.
That's
Absolutely.
lucky for you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, lucky for this dude. Lucky for this dude, indeed.
Yeah.
Where did you grow up in a lower income, middle income, high income community?
It was middle income.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, I think that even those who grew up in very needy situations, right? They may not have been dealt a great hand of cards.
But they still.
They can still, I think it comes down to accountability. You can still play your hand and play your cards strategically in a way where you can still be successful, you can still do your thing, and you can wind up on top. And there's nothing stopping them from doing that.
Would you say that low-income white people and low-income Black people have the same ability to excel?
I would say they have the same ability to excel.
Okay, so I'm going to start countering from that point.
Yeah, you're going to have to explain that, brother. You're going to have to explain it. Really, you're going to have to really explain that. Let's listen to this.
Then. So ultimately, we know that our low-income communities are not given the same access to resources on a myriad of levels. They don't even have the same air quality. Okay. We know that low-income communities in general are also going to be much more policed than other communities. We know that policing as it exists in the United States came from slave catching.
Yep.
So even the tradition of policing comes from protecting property, not protecting people. Okay. So let's start there.
And you could look at the red flags. Let me show you how the red flags. Look at this. Everybody wants them out. That's sad. They want them out. I know why. But anyhow, let's keep going.
We talk about low income, like the working class Black people in this nation. We know that they have never been considered, ever, whether they were slaves or not. They just weren't considered. And we also know, as our brother Isaiah pointed out, that there are still people in very powerful positions that hold very personal positions as it relates to racism. And so in that way, they are impediments to someone moving forward.
Okay.
When we talk about DEI, the concept of DEI is not about lowering a standard. It's about widening the options. So we live in a nation that I feel like a lot of y'all are looking at the United States as a long history of something. We have a short history. All right. For 400 years, there was slavery. Black people were not even considered whole humans. We were 3/5 human. After the Civil War, during Reconstruction, Black people were then subjected to the Black Laws. The Black Laws were specifically for Black people. The Black Laws incarcerated Black people at such an exorbitant rate that they were.
Don't forget about what do you call it? Jim Crow. I think Jim Crow is part of Black Laws. If I think, might be wrong. Well, let's go.
Able to get another slave labor force through the 13th Amendment because you had Black people that were serving entire life, like months-long, years-long sentences for jaywalking.
Okay.
So when we look at these things, we act as if, well, why can't we just get over that? That's 2 generations previous, okay?
More red
so
flags.
If a father in the early 1900s was incarcerated for 2 years, how do you think that would impede their family from being able to grow, right?
Sure.
Now you're affecting the ability for their children to have 2 parents in the home. You also now have a mother who's like incredibly stressed and may have to always be working, so she's not able to parent, etc. We also know that there is a continued effort in this nation to not have Black people know the history of this nation. Like our good sis here was talking about, like, we have resilience, but this nation actively works systemically to keep that from us, right? We look in Florida at the laws that they are passing to not allow education about our past. And we know that if we don't know where we came from, how can we know where we're going?
Sure. Okay.
All right, I'm so sorry. I'm sorry.
All good.
That's flags.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got booted off. What should I expect? What's gonna happen? Let me see. All right, let me bring it up so you guys see who's next. Let's see. I think this woman came up right. Let's check.
Hi.
Hi again.
We cool now?
We good.
Oh, it's her. Hell no. Let's keep playing. I'm gonna go through another 5 minutes of this because I think now they're cycling people. There's no new thought into this.
Good. I think we're on the same. We're kind of looking at the same side of the same coin, and I think we both want the betterment of the Black community, and I think we're maybe coming from it from different ways. And so I do respect your position to what you were saying as well, that there are certain things and powers at play. And I've experienced racism firsthand. A lot of conservatives may try to act like, oh, there's no racism in America. I absolutely believe there is racism in America. I believe racist people exist. I just don't think that the systems as they stand today are inherently racist because I've seen too many Black people overcome. And I just feel like a lot of times what's left out of the dialogue is self-accountability and like self-will. We talked about how we were 3/5 of a person, but now we are 100%, I guess, according to the law or whatever, a person. And I feel like at the end of the day, if you wanted to walk out here right now and decide, you know what, I want to change my career, I want to do that, you can. And that's why so many people and Nigerians come here and Indians come here and so many people who are not white.
Are you Nigerian, baby? I had to ask, are you ADOS? Let's continue.
Who are supposed to be discriminated against because they're not white. They come here and they become doctors and lawyers. Why? Because to your point, there's community. There's a sense of pride about, you know what, I got to go honor my parents back in Nigeria. I'm part Nigerian. I have to go honor my parents. I have to go honor my elders. They're not.
Oh, so you are Nigerian. Imagine that. Wow.
Twerking and shaking booty. They're getting.
They are literally twerking and shaking booty in
the
Nigeria.
Nigerians I know ain't doing it. If they are
we
twerking,
literally
but
learned
doctors,
it from Africa.
They're doctors twerking and shaking booty. So maybe they can shake because they got the money to back it up. But do you see what you're saying? But do you see what I'm saying though? We have to be honest, Amanda. When Indians come here,
so as a fellow daughter of an immigrant,
okay,
right? So my mother's from Grenada. My mother did come here and was able to work and was able to get green cards for folks. So shout out to my mom. There's a very big difference in growing up somewhere and coming from a place where you are the majority and where your people are running the show than being somewhere where your people have been subjugated the entire time your people have been here.
But your mama came here and she wasn't the majority, so how did she succeed?
She succeeded because she came here with the fortitude of coming from a place.
Her resilience, right?
No, but
and she had her village.
Let me say what I'm saying.
Okay, I'll let you unpack.
If we don't acknowledge divide and conquer in the United States, we are having a pointless conversation.
I agree.
We have to acknowledge that there is a concerted effort at divide and conquer in the United States. We're literally watching it happen right now with an effort to divide and conquer and have Black people fighting immigrants and have Black people saying that immigrants don't matter.
And
so
fighting white people.
White people is not the point. The concept of white people is about people who are upholding a supremacy of whiteness versus people who understand that there should be an egalitarianism. There should be an equality.
That we are becoming the new white supremacists.
We are.
We've been putting them on a pedestal.
We are.
We feel like we can't do anything.
No, it's not that we're putting them. It's not that we're putting them on a pedestal. It's that we are joining them and instead weaponizing our Blackness against people. When we do what you're saying, we are saying, I am better because I figured it out, and so you're the problem because you didn't figure it out.
But Amanda, what about if I believe that the American dream is, I have a right to that as well? Is that me joining white people, or is that me saying, you know what, I want a life for my dream? The American dream for me, because it may look different from other people. Some people it's a boss chick. For me, I want my kids to grow up in a wonderful neighborhood. I want them to go to college. I want to have a 401k. I want to do this. I want to do that. So I feel like a lot of times in the Black community, we associate anything that's right or that's just or that's striving forward with whiteness. So when you say that we're working with them,
it's whiteness, it's capitalism. And I think that's what we have to understand. That
boom, she said right there. It's capitalism, sweetie. This is not a socialist country, it's a capitalist system. And if they want to take advantage of one person the other, they will do so with a smile on the face. Ding.
Difference of the concept of capitalism always is grounded in exploitation.
And look at the dude is that the guy who has the Israel necklace? Yeah, he rubbed the red flag. He better get his ass out.
But Amanda, we're sitting here benefiting from capitalism, and you know that because you would. I
understand that we are benefiting. I understand that we are benefiting from capitalism, but I also understand that we would have other people and a majority of people benefit if we were not solely capitalist. That is what it means to be a Black radical. It's to understand that I can benefit as well as others.
So, Amanda, what is your solution then? Because we know that capitalism benefits us, and people are coming here every day.
My solution is what I continue to say. We need to have coalition building across cultural differences, across ethnicities, across classes.
And that includes collaborating with white people.
I've never said it didn't.
But I feel
this
like a lot of
obsession, this obsession with white people fails to acknowledge the fact that there are people who benefit from white supremacy.
But we
who
live
do
in
not-
America,
Let me finish
Amanda.
my point.
Go
There
ahead.
are people who benefit from white supremacy that
Yeah.
do not identify themselves as white. They don't
Yeah.
consider that to be the most important element of their identity, because they understand that at the end of the day, we need to see each other as humans that all deserve a right to exist.
Exactly.
We
I
all
agree.
deserve a right to exist, and I shouldn't have to earn my right to exist. And that is what
What makes
capitalism
you think
does.
that you have to earn it? That's what
That
I'm saying.
is
Like,
what
I
this
don't feel
nation
that
is.
way.
You do have to earn it.
You don't have to earn
Yes,
it.
you do.
We are
That
in
is why we are
America, Amanda.
criminalizing the poor. We are criminalizing the poor on a regular basis.
How so?
How so? Because we're not even allowing for a wage to happen to allow people to get out of poverty. We are seeing inflation grow.
We both have people in our
You mean a living wage you're asking for? Is that what you're saying?
family that have done it, so we can't.
No, we have
say
not
that.
had people that are done it. My mother came to America with an entire nursing degree. I can't say, oh, well, my mother did it. Why can't you? Because
My
my
mama
mother
was pregnant at 19 from the south side of Chicago with no degree and still made
good
something
for
of
your
herself.
mom.
That's what
But
I'm
this is
saying.
the
That's
thing.
good for your mom.
Your
do
mom
it.
is. It's not. The question isn't whether or not
not
some
an
people
exception
can
to the
do
rule.
it. The question and the reality is that it is not available to everyone in an equal way.
And that's unfortunate, man. But you know we live in a
It's
broken
not a matter-
society. I went to
well, then
Nigeria
that's what
and they're
we're
having the
talking
same
about.
problems, and
But
there's a
that's
bunch
what
of
we're
black
talking
people that are
about.
running
It's a broken
Nigeria.
society.
But it's the same thing in
But
Nigeria. and there are
Nigeria
black
is a
people in
broken
power-
society,
with black
whereas
people in
Burkina
power.
Faso is not. Burkina Faso is not.
That's time.
My final claim is black conservatism fails to meet the needs of the working class.
Now, depending how this goes, I'm not going to share no more of this. I'm going to let it run as it is because I think this is the more important part. I was going to stop right here, guys, but now that I think about it, this one is very important on the role of black conservatism. So we're going to listen to the last, how much more? Maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes of this. See how it goes. Let's go.
Ant dog. Okay, talk to me.
So
Oh, and they got this AB. Let me hear this fool. Oh, shit. Let me hear this fool.
I think black conservatives, we're the ones who really want the best for working people.
Oh.
I think we're the ones
Really?
that, like a lot of the liberals, a lot of the leftists, they want us to do things like office work. They want us to go reparations, try to get things from the government and get handouts. We say, hey, go out there and work. Go out there and get these jobs that are available. Work with your hands, do skilled trades. That's where a lot of us talk about, skilled trades. So working class, that's really a black conservative thing, in my humble opinion.
I would beg to disagree. I think that would be true if black conservatism also created pathways for people to get those jobs and also to be able to challenge the corporations that are using their labor, that are stealing from them and not impeding them from having a union. So for instance, like in the South, right? I just left North Carolina where I met with the USSW, the Union of Southern Service Workers. This is an unofficial union of individuals who work at places like Waffle House, at Food Lion, etc. And their unofficial union is unofficial because the conservatives in that state will not allow for them to be officialized.
Legitimate.
Yeah, come on, you gotta pronounce better, baby.
Legitimized.
There you go. I got you.
It will not allow for them to be legitimized because then they would be able to push back legitimately on the corporations to get fair wages, right? So
Okay.
like someone was telling me in this organization that she was in Baltimore getting $15.25 as a minimum wage. And then when she moved just one state away, she was now only getting $7.25 for minimum wage, but the cost of living was the same for her. So when we talk about, you know, the effort of saying go out and get these jobs and get these trades, et cetera, I think that is valid, but I think that the impediments by leveling up corporations and by pouring into the effort of corporations to keep billionaires, as black conservatives, you are actually cutting off the ability for those people to excel.
Okay, I understand your point, but a lot of us are more about being self-sufficient. So
Yeah, but the whole premise, Amanda, is they want to be the next 100 millionaires and billionaires. That's why they will continue to play the status quo, because they hopefully by putting enough work effort, they'll become the next rich person. And that is delusional.
the South, a friend of mine down there, King Randall, has a school for boys. He's 22 years old. He has a bunch of kids living with him. He's teaching them physical skills they can do. Okay,
Yeah.
being a mechanic, working on your car, working on your house, building things with your hands. So you don't got to worry about corporations. You could be your own man. You could be your own woman. And also, Didn't you also say earlier that you're against unions? But are you
No,
for them now?
I never said that.
Oh, so you're for unions?
Absolutely.
So when the unions keep black
Yeah,
folks
unions-
out, you're for that as well? Because that's traditionally what they've done, keep black folks out, correct?
Obviously, I am not for that. The reality is that unions have definitely in the beginning kept black folks out. And the reason why they were keeping black folks out is because after the Civil War, when there was Reconstruction, you had all these black people that had been used with free labor and they had skills, right? Whether they were a blacksmith or a carpenter or whatever. However, they could not get jobs because the white people who now had to fend for themselves, if you will, because they didn't have slaves, they had to go and learn all these trades.
Right.
And so they actively kept black people out of those jobs. And then what they would do is that when they would, as a union, say, we're going on strike, the black people would be like, well, we'll work because they won't let us in their union anyway. And then when they would go and actually get those jobs that the people were on strike for, they would hang them. They would lynch them. So yes, these are real things that have taken place. But we keep having these conversations where we acknowledge the past when it's convenient, and then we only say in the present when it's convenient. So you can't simultaneously say, well, everybody's fine now and there's no systemic racism at the same time as stating that there are unions that are racist and unions that aren't racist. Ultimately, there is racism in the United States. It is deeply embedded. We have seen it in a myriad of examples, even just yesterday or today. And black.
Why is people still they're preparing their red flags, as you know, they're crescent, they're massaging it, and they're prepared to raise that flag to get ABL up out of here.
Conservatives are working against the working class because they are actively placing their vision, their ideology of black excellence in economics solely.
Well, there is racism
And in individual economics. And I think that's really the big difference of what we're talking about right now. You're talking about every man for themselves. Every man for themselves.
No. I don't say that.
Oh, you didn't say that?
I say that we have to be individual as people, as black people, but still get all of us on the same page. My friends at school, he's not just looking out for himself, he's looking for all these kids as well. So it's like, okay, I bring myself up and then bring everybody else up, rather than relying upon the corporations and white people to lift this up. That's where we come from as black conservatives. So I think there's a difference between relying on and acknowledging that there are impediments of. And I want to acknowledge the reality that we keep seeming to bump up against, which is that everybody has equal ability, and they don't. Everybody doesn't have the same impediments. So, for instance, I grew up with a single parent, not because... Me too.
I grew up with a single parent, not because my father was some deadbeat that didn't have... My father has MD from Harvard. My father has an MBA from Tufts.
My dad was a firefighter, so working class, conservative.
He just didn't want to be a parent. So when we talk about this whole idea of like, oh, the blacks that are, not doing the thing, it's not about necessarily what class you're in. It's literally just about, we live in a nation that gives the option of, I don't want to be a parent. We live in a nation that gives the option of, I don't need to be cooperation with our community. And as far as I'm concerned, black conservatives do not address the needs of the working class, which are fair access to resources, which are equal access to getting jobs, which are equal pay to the same access as others. And we don't.
Equal to who?
Equal to other states even. Like there's no reality where you can say that the same amount of white people are working low wage jobs per capita as black people. A lot of the reason is because there's such a disparate incarceration of black people that it impedes their ability to get higher level education as well as higher level employment because we know about disenfranchisement.
All right, there you go.
All right. Well, he didn't get kicked off because for a reason, ABL must have paid some of these people to say, please don't throw the red flag. I mean, let me sit there and have the conversation. All right, ABL, we'll do that. Yeah.
Hi, Layla.
Nice to meet you.
Nice
I'm
to meet
Layla.
you.
I would actually argue that the black working class is failing themselves. Wouldn't you agree that,
New person.
in order to get a job, in order to qualify for a certain position and
That's Layla for the people who don't know. New person. Let's see if she could hold her and show why black conservative has failed the black community.
education system, at a job, wouldn't you argue that it should be based off of qualifications and not your race or identity?
I've never argued that. I've never argued that. That's not
I know
the case.
that you were saying that you would argue that it should be equal, right? So you're saying that there should be black Americans in education systems, in jobs, but wouldn't you argue that they should be qualified for those positions and not just placed there because of their skin color?
I've never disapproved that.
Okay, so let's say...
That's not what DEI is.
Okay.
Do you know that?
Well, I'm not talking about DEI right now. Well,
because you're suggesting that I suggested that somebody should get a job just because they're black. And I've
Well,
never asserted anything like that.
I mean, I understand that you may not say that exactly, but a lot of the claims are, you know, they're pointing to that.
No, it's not pointing
so-
to that.
okay.
And so that is that. I need to clear this up because
Okay.
it's a really important point.
Okay.
We live in a nation that has actively pedestaled white people. Can we all agree on that? That we
In
no,
the past,
we can't.
in the
Okay,
past,
in the
but
past,
not currently,
in the past.
but not currently.
So okay, fair.
Well, they're still upheld as pedestal. Unfortunately, because this is a white nation. Look at your commercials. Look at your TV show. Look at your movies. Do you see anything of mixed people and black people upheld in this nation we call America? No. So it's still upheld by these people that are the majority in this country, which is white folks. And that's the honest truth.
Okay, so how many black people are part of this administration's cabinet?
I'm not sure. Can you tell me?
Zero.
Can you fill me in?
Zero.
Oh.
Who?
So seems like there may be a
That's
couple.
not a cabinet.
I don't know.
Scott Turner.
Okay.
Okay.
So
there are. So we got two.
So there are.
So we got two.
Can we
got
also,
two. We got two. So back to your point, DEI is about expanding.
Oh yes. Okay.
Not lowering credibility.
Okay.
So if we have a system that has very actively said these particular people are the best people simply because of their race, DEI said, or their gender.
Okay.
Because DEI mostly leveled up white women.
Okay. So it would be incorrect if it's, you know, if we're pointing toward this, you know, a majority of race is qualified because of the skin, the base of their skin color.
Absolutely. Yeah. Whether they're white, black. I mean, race is fake anyway.
Now, I do want to touch on a point that you did mention earlier, that you would argue that, you know, black people have less opportunities in America. I do not agree with that. I have not had, you know,
first of all, you're a light-skinned woman,
and so are you.
Yes,
and you're doing
so
great for
colorism,
yourself.
Yes, and so colorism really does serve us.
I do want to say, why do you think that?
Damn, she even telling the real truth that I'm red, you're red. So we got some advantage in society since we're not blackity black, darkity black. God damn. I feel sorry for you ladies that are jet black and beautiful, and sometimes make sure you're not a big bat, that you don't get much opportunities because you're too dark. It is what it is, sweetie. We have no control over that.
Is though, why do you think that? Do you think it's just based off the color of our skin, or do you think it's based off of the reputation that black people make for themselves?
What reputation are black people making for
What
themselves?
would you argue? Because I mean, when I look at
who makes the reputation for black people?
Let's look at music, for example.
We already had this conversation.
Let's talk about the black and black crime.
Most of the people
Oh, are we?
Most of the people.
I'm going to shut it down right now and let you know that the reality is that when you come to black music, for you to say most of the people, you've already lost the argument.
Am I right?
There is no most of the people with black people because you haven't heard of all of black music.
Most
of
the music that is, let's say, maybe exalted or shown by the media, right?
And who controls those systems?
It defiles black Americans.
But
who's putting it out there?
We're the ones putting it out there. The distribution systems that are putting them out there are owned by white people.
Who listens to?
And who are the white people? Amanda Seals, name the tribe. Which tribe? Is it Italians? Is it Scottish? Is it Swedish? Is it English? Is it Yugoslavia? Or is it Jewish? You got name. We need names of the tribes, because when you say white people, it's good you put it all in a box, but there's certain specific type of groups or tribes within white culture or white people in general. But you see, this is where Amanda loses the conversation. When you don't name specific names and break it down the way how these people should understand, you're not really posing a good argument. No, you're on Jubilee doing this nonsense. They want receipts. Give them receipts.
To them, because I can bet you most of my friends, my black friends that are not conservative, they listen to that music that defiles their bodies.
You know
that
who
talks
else
about
listens to that
black on
music?
black crime, and
everybody
it's a good
else.
thing.
But if
Am
we
I
don't
right?
acknowledge that they are not in the same way pursuing white voices talking about the same thing, even though they are, we simply like to start at the branches of a tree and not at the root. We have to understand that the media is king. Okay, media is king,
and media does not favor conservatism. I can tell you that right now. I mean, look at the protests right now in Los Angeles.
Depending on who is in office, media does favor them.
I mean, we have Trump in office right now, and media is not favoring Trump at all.
Media is absolutely not favoring Trump in certain spaces because Trump is also not favoring that particular type of media. But it depends on the day, and we have to acknowledge that regardless of whether you talk conservatism or not, media has never favored black people at any point.
All right, guys, that's time. You've been voted out.
Thank you.
Yes, get yourself out of here, baby. I love your back and forth. I respect that from one light skinned woman to the next. I love that. Like that. Love it. Beautiful. Beautiful.
At any point.
Thank you.
Who's this?
I'm back. So let's talk about facts.
Oh, you're back. This dude.
I just want to move back to systemic racism because you mentioned systemic racism earlier. I just want to look at 3 applications of systemic racism against white people and against East Asians as well. So, for example, we have the National College Attainment Network, which defines affirmative action or even race-conscious admissions as taking race as one of the factors in whether or not you're going to admit a student. And we noticed that when race-conscious admissions was out of it, Black enrollment dropped 64%. At UC Berkeley. And that is an act of systemic racism. Trying to look at people's races and allow them into colleges whether or not they're of a set race is racism. And it's race conscious. And Martin Luther King's most famous quote is that he doesn't want his children to be judged based on race, but by the content of their character. And the content of people's characters also includes merit. We have another example of systemic racism. Burgess Owens. He's a representative out of Utah. He's a Black Republican representative. He called out the MIT president for having Black-only dormitories. I mean, what does that mean? Why are we trying to segregate each other and say that Black people feel safer amongst Black people when the truth is they are actually more in danger when they're around Black people? And that's unfortunate. It's sad that I'm saying this, but it's the case, and I have to say it because it's true, okay? Black people are killing each other at a vast, crazy rate. Black men rapping about it. It's savagery. It's barbaric, and we shouldn't be doing it as a people. We should try to get more Ben Carsons. Ben Carson's cousins were murdered when he was younger, but his mother came to him and gave him a book and told Ben Carson to read and study to not be like his cousins. And Ben Carson separated 2 twins at the back of the head, and he's known as one of the best renowned neurologists or neuroscientists that we've ever seen, right?
Ben Carson said that slaves were immigrants.
Well, they were brought here to the United States, and many of them were slaves, and we know that to be a fact.
What is the difference between someone being an immigrant and being a stolen person?
I mean, I understand that many people were stolen here, but 90% of historians agree that slavery would have not been possible if Black slave owners within Africa didn't sell off.
So she asked you a general question. What's the difference between immigrants and Black slave owners? You should know already, as if you're following Black conservatism, you're supposed to break down this what is definition of immigrants and this definition of slave owners, Black slave owners. I'm not gonna read it because obviously this man don't know, and I'm not gonna re-educate people that wants to hear it. It's boring. Let's keep going.
People. White people didn't show up and just start stealing people. They didn't do that. That's not how that worked.
Literally did that.
But they didn't. They worked with Black owners and Black.
Yeah. There's a process. So Amanda, you gotta re-educate that. Most of the African nations, kings, they did sell some of the people because, like anything, you are a form of warfare, prisoner of war, and they will sell you for weapons, rum, and so we can't. And the good book that explains this is, I think I'm trying to understand. Let me see if I can find it. 1 second. Let me find. I'm gonna let it play.
They literally did that. And Arabs did that as well. And I think it's very important. And I think it's important to note that there is an oversimplification of history as well as of Black people in Africa. There's a failure to acknowledge that in Africa, Black people did not consider themselves Black people. That was a racial distinction that was solely created by white oppressors to legitimize slavery.
Arab oppressors, actually, because the Arabs did it in the 7th century. They were the first ones.
They did not name it under Blackness. They simply just decided, we're going to go and have enslavers. This was a decision that was actualized and then tried to be pushed forward through eugenics. Literally, there was an executive order that was passed a few months ago that said that Donald Trump wants to now control the museums because he wants to take back control of the narrative around race. And in one of these museums that they cited was that there was a display that speaks about race not as a biological thing, but as something that has just been created as a social construct. And he stated that that is an incorrect expression of race, that race is biological.
But it is biological. Like, let's look at our phenotypical traits, the differences, the hair texture. It's a biological thing. Sure, there's a social concept, but there's biological differences that exist.
You're very convicted in your lack of information around these things. Race and ethnicity are 2 different things, okay?
Okay, I found the book. The book is titled, you guys can hear me? Okay. Orlando Patterson's Slavery and Social Debt, to compare studies with a new preference. This book breaks down the history of slavery is entirely, and I guarantee it gives names of nations. The whole purpose of slavery was for the map, everything. This book gives you more thorough breakdown. So pick up that book. Let's go.
Ethnicity is where you're from. Race is literally something that was created to put people into categories of caste, to put people into categories of oppression. Race is not something that you are. Race is something that was bestowed and put upon you.
That's racism, not race. Race is simply the aggregation.
No, race is literally something that was created and put upon you. And I want you to listen to me as somebody who has studied this, who has a master's in African American Studies from the Institute for Research in African American Studies at Columbia University. I want you to understand very clearly that race is not something that is biological. There is literally
Look at us.
no.
Look at the differences.
There is many differences that are equated to ours that
And
has
they're
nothing
not
to do with
biological?
race.
Melanin
That has nothing to
content
do
is
with
not
race.
biological at
so
all?
if you have a black parent and you have a white parent, and now you come out looking white, how is that a biological
But most
proof of your race?
most of them
There's
come
no
out
most of them.
having
Stop,
curly hair.
Stop. There's no most of them. You do not
Mixed
have
race?
anything to
You're
prove
mixed
that.
race, too.
I am not mixed race. My mother is black and my father is black.
Well, my father is also considered black, but he's very much has a lot of European DNA. And
You know what I think? I think that you are at a phase of your learning where you are a contrarian. And I look forward to seeing your development because I have a feeling that you're actually going to flip the script eventually because you are somebody that definitely is grounded in wanting to learn facts and wanting to learn the truths of things. However, you're currently still stuck in an indoctrinated space that is tricking you into thinking that you are something that you are not. You are a black person who is literally having to receive the results of racism, but ultimately you are of an ethnicity that has thrived in spite of it. And that is where we really exist from. And that is where our resilience comes from in spite of systemic racism.
I think our resilience is happening now. I think growing, understanding the real problems, not going out and trying to protest against. You guys don't ever do this. KTS.
You
Dre,
guys don't ever do that.
KTS
Who is
Dre.
you guys?
Who is you
Members of the
guys?
black community that don't want to hold people accountable, especially black people. So KTS Dre was shot 60 times outside of Cook County, Chicago. How many BLM members came out? You earlier said BLM
Stop
is about
referring
police.
to me as you guys.
Okay, that's fine. So, for example, we had a really good example of this where it's not a police.
You know, I noticed with black conservatism when they say you guys, and like you're not part of the whole amongst black people in general. I'm starting to notice people that follow conservatism, if they're black, they're really sissies and cowards. They're bitch made. I don't know if you guys understand me or caught that, but I'm noticing I can smell a bitch in them. Just saying.
Because I remember you
Where
said.
are you from?
Where am I from? What do you mean by that? Like, what state am I from? Where was I born?
Where do you live right now?
I live in Florida. I was born in Angola, though. I was born in sub-Saharan Africa. Okay.
Where did you grow up for most of your time?
In Maine. I lived in North America.
In Maine.
Yes.
And what is the population of black people in the town that you're from?
It's really extremely low, but I grew up around black people, and there's a black community where I lived.
And that black community that you lived in, did they teach you about black history in the United States?
I
Like,
learned black history.
Are your parents black American?
Yeah, my mom is black. My father is black.
No, I'm asking, were they born in the United States?
No, because I wasn't born there.
Oh, so you guys are all from Angola?
Yes. But again, I like I told you earlier, right?
So right there, you should not be involved in this conversation. You're outside looking in. I will refer to you to go read these books, which I notice how black conservatives don't read actual information of history. You ever notice that? I'm just saying.
In terms of people like KTS Dre that were shot, BLM doesn't come out for them. And I remember you earlier
Well, I
said,
think it's really
hold on, can I
important
please finish? You earlier said that BLM is worried about police, but when Daniel Penny choked out the man that we all know was causing violence on that subway train.
He was not causing violence.
He was threatening
Causing
people.
disruption is not causing violence.
He was threatening people.
Causing disruption is not
And
causing
the
violence.
people there helped him also. And we know that he helped them.
I don't know what that has to do with BLM. Random people on a train is not Black
BLM
Lives
showed
Matter.
up. BLM showed up for that. They did.
Showed up for what?
BLM showed up threatening white people, saying that they're going to
No,
go
they
get white
didn't.
people now. They
BLM
did.
protested.
BLM New York.
BLM
Research
protested.
that.
Where did you get that from? You see,
BLM New York.
your sources are not. You're not able to
But I have
cite
all
your
the
sources.
In
Please
New
go
York.
sit down.
Yeah, that's the truth.
It's
you
not
can
the
try to avoid
truth.
it.
It's not the truth. It's not the. Nothing you say is actually the truth. Nothing. You're not even American.
You're not even American. You don't have no ties to that. Anytime when shit get rough, you go back to Angola. Get the hell out of here. I swear to God, this is just amazing. 1 second, guys. Next one. Where am I?
Not even a Black American. as the daughter of an immigrant, it is imperative that Black people from other places understand the disparate difference that they exist from Black people in the United States. It is not the same. Period.
Everything.
And ultimately, the best effort that we can do as a diaspora is to lead in understanding, not in judgment. So when I am talking to somebody from Sudan, from the Congo, from Angola, I am listening to understand their experience, not to undermine it. And I refuse to allow anybody from Grenada, from Angola, from any other place to come and try to undermine the experience of Black Americans. Who feels passionately about something that they want to talk to me about? I choose John Samuel because I like his facial hair and dashiki pairing. I feel like he's gonna sing a mean R&B.
Which one? My claim is that Black people as a community need to walk away from the Democratic Party and progressivism completely. I'm saying this from a...
All right, you know what I'm gonna do, guys? I'm not gonna listen to this part. I think it's irrelevant at this point. I think the last thing she said made her point, and well said. At the end of the day, Black conservatism, to me, the question been asked, what are you conserving as a Black man, Black woman that follow conservative? That should be your homework, and you should have a clear answer in the comment section if you really give a crap about this content here. Other than that, like, comment, subscribe to this channel. And Amanda Seales, she did her thing. I think there should be someone else that's a little bit more well-read and more prepared to break down the talking points to people that refuse to be well-educated and well-read and study of Black history, Black struggle, and Black people and their ties to the West. Thank y'all for listening. Until next time, take care, guys.